Trent Cotney and John Kenney are dedicated to helping the construction industry with legal business and safety challenges. Welcome to this week's episode of Law and Mortar.
Hey, I'd like to welcome everybody to another episode of Law and Mortar. As always, I'm Trent Cotney, and I'm happy to join you today. As always, we've got John Kenney. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful this week. I always enjoy coming together and doing our Law and Mortar podcast and getting the feedback and the comments that come back from our audience. That's one of the best things in my week.
Yep, it's a good way to wrap things up. And this week's been a little crazy, I gotta admit. I have been answering phone calls, emails, text messages, social media messages, you name it, about the new immigration law that was just signed by Governor DeSantis on Wednesday, May 10th. And for those of you that don't know what that law is, basically it said that the key point of it, there's a bunch of different parts, but the key point was that come July 1, if you've got 25 employees or more, you have to, any new hires have to be subject to E-Verify. So I've got a lot of contractors panicking because they recognize sort of the reality of construction, and that is, you can comply with I-9s, you can look at documentation that's provided that passes the sniff test, but regardless of whether it's agriculture, hospitality, or construction, good chance that many of the workers here in Florida are probably not legal. So a lot of contractors are concerned, rightfully so. We've been talking about a variety of ways to try to comply, but mitigate at the same time. Part of that involves, maybe creating separate companies or looking to employee leasing or PEOs, or possibly looking at immigration ways to try to fix whatever the problems are. But it's a big mess and it's coming quick. July 1 will be here before you know it. So what are you hearing on your end, John?
You're right. I mean, July 1 is 45 days away. It's here before you get a chance to react. Couple of crazy things that I've been hearing. So, I mean, I always like to throw a little data in there. So to kind of understand the impact that on the state of Florida in construction, hospitality, and in the agricultural, the estimate is 47% of the workforce between all of them is illegals. So, I mean, you're not talking about one or two people, you're talking about a massive part of it. And the other part that really, I don't know if everyone's focusing on it yet now, is the subcontractor look at it. You have to certify, if you're a roofer or GC, whatever that may be, and you're hiring a subcontractor, whether it's somebody I read through it, it's worded this way, whether it's for material, labor only or labor, materials, equipment, whatever it may be, it's up to the contractor hiring to get a certification that their workers have all been E-verified and are legal. That's kind of, I mean, I'm sure that's going to be a great battle for you on your end there legally, Trent, but it's not a really good way it's written. And then how about all the labor subs coming into the state? The border, now if you cross and you got more than 5 or 6 in a van or whatever it is, that now becomes a higher offense. So I think, honestly, the biggest thing that's going to happen is the workforce is going to disappear, just like it did in the Great Recession. I think they're going to go work elsewhere, and we're not going to have the workforce. Not that I don't believe the immigration system absolutely needs to get fixed, but I think the chances of that happening in my lifetime are probably 0 to -20. But regardless, this is what we got. So do you see some legal challenges to this, Trent? For sure, right?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of different ways to look at it. One of the and it's interesting because there was already some laws in place for public projects that required, public contractors to be E-verified and have subcontractor affidavits, things like that. But this deals with private companies, and you've got questions of whether or not, federal law preempts this. You got questions on, part of the penalty process that I thought was interesting, John, was they have the ability to revoke any administrative license if you've got over 50 employees, and you could be suspended if it's under that, right? So you're talking about getting your construction license revoked. Some of that, I think, goes beyond sort of the pale. I think can they mandate E-Verify? Yeah, there's plenty of states that have done that. The problem is all this extras and add-ons and stuff that I think was added in for political reasons. That's going to be subject to challenge. I would be astonished if there's not legal challenges looking to fight some of this, especially among the three industries that you mentioned.
Yeah, and I got to agree with you. The E-Verify bothers me the least about this, because even when I was in the industry, we used E-Verify, and and sometimes it could take a year, honestly, that you get a no match letter, even if they pass E-Verify. It does happen. You can pass, but it's the penalties that are going along with it, and the driver's license, and the fines, and like you say, one offense is X, and then two offenses, and then you can lose your license pretty much forever if it gets to that point. And we all know there's good players and bad players, and the bad players deserve to get whatever they got coming. But this one seems like it threw everybody in the state into one big bag, and it's all being mixed up.
Yeah, I think it's a little short-sighted. I wonder how much it's going to be enforced. Hopefully it's just a paper tiger, but time will tell. So another interesting thing that we got going on, I guess, is the debt ceiling. John, you and I were talking about that before we started here. Why don't you tell everybody what's going on?
Well, I mean, it's kind of crazy that we're down to, and again, now it's supposedly the very beginning of June, and it depends on who you listen to, but I mean, they got to come up and basically it's time to pull up the grown-up pants and make something happen, because this will be devastating. It'll be devastating to us in local areas, U.S. areas, money, markets, and eventually global. I mean, the first thing that happens is our military can't get paid, our senior citizens can't receive their checks, and all your federal money is going to dry up that's involved in any construction project that has federal money. And honestly, in the last couple of years, there's very few projects out there, including school re-roofs now, that aren't falling under some sort of one of these federal programs where the money is, and they all shut down, besides whatever else happens. Because honestly, Trent, in my lifetime and your lifetime and lifetime before that, this is charted waters we've never been in.
Yeah, and when you combine that with the interest rates increasing and all the other economic indicators, it's pretty cool, scary environment. So
It's a tough time to not only be a regular person worrying about it, but business people out there right now. You between especially in the state of Florida, and honestly, I see they're trying to do something on a national basis with the immigration. They talked about carving out agriculture, but still, in all, construction's left in there. And let's face it, on a national basis, that's a big problem.
Yeah, I don't know what the future is going to look like. I think that we are going to have an economic downturn, and I think it will be. We're experiencing sort of a slower burn than it was back in 09 and 10, that time period. Part of it is because they've been notching the interest rates slowly, but that money is getting more and more expensive, and I think projects are drying up, and I think it's just going to be a matter of time where it's going to catch up. The good news is that construction remains strong. There's still a great backlog. I think we'll be the last to experience any issues there, but definitely got my eyes on it. Something that we're focused on over here, at least trying to mitigate risk and make sure that you're keeping every dollar you can. So John, now it's that special time.
This is my favorite time.
Yeah, I pulled one out in advance. This is one that I thought would be timely. This one is from Tom, and he says, with all the recent changes with immigration laws, how are we supposed to get workers? Do you have any ideas on how we can properly recruit new workers into our workforce? So, John, I know you do a lot with that, so I'll let you take first stab.
Well, that's a really good question, because definitely, like I said, the goalposts have moved with this recent law change. You've got to, recruiting's one thing, and everybody is legal. They all going to come in. They're all going to be legal until you run that E-Verify, and it usually kicks back within, you got to do it within, I think, 3 days or 20 of hiring or something, Trent. That's the legal part, but I think that's what it is. But I think you got to really work your efforts into trying to work locally with high schools, trade schools, VOTEX, And I also have been really getting some interesting ideas, people from other industries that are really fed up with other industries. And I don't mean in construction, I'm talking about even sales and retail. Maybe that's not all the best we can get for the workforce, but I think you got to think out of that box and start recruiting from other pools that we haven't touched before, because I really believe the workforce is going to dry up. I think the ones that know they're illegal or question it, or there's going to be people not wanting to come because they don't want to deal with it. I think you're going to see an exodus of workforce like we did in the Great Recession, which was greater nationally. But I would say just you got to think out of the box. Start working with your local. If everyone works locally and expands out from there, I think you'll be successful.
Yeah, and I just add on, don't forget our friends over at National Aluminum and Roofing. Most of the areas out there have local affiliates. Great to kind of get involved and see if there's any recruiting options for your company there. The other thing I would say is embrace technology. That's going to help increase efficiency. You might be able to replace some workers with good technology. I think it's a matter of time before we see more automation and whether it's drone usage or machines to tear off roofs or whatever it is. I think we're going to see more of that. That's going to help replace some of the labor we're missing now. But you got to keep trying. You got to try as many angles as you can. I don't think it's an easy answer. If there was, then it wouldn't be the biggest problem construction faces right now. So
I just want to tag back on what you said, and I think this is where I'll leave it on this. That's with technology, you're correct. But one thing is, I would concentrate less on worrying about growing my sales and needing to find an additional 15 more people for the workforce, which may not happen. If you put the throttle down too heavy on sales right now, you could flood your whole company out and not survive because you don't have a way of doing it, especially with the subcontractor angle maybe being taken away. So I would recommend that we've always preached this, but this is a great time to become more efficient and more productive of what you have. So you're increasing the money you're making by doing about the same in overall volume. You're just getting more efficient at it. And honestly, everybody out there is a contractor. All that matters is that bottom net profit. Nothing else matters. That's it. Increase that. Work on trying to double that rather than doubling your workforce.
Yep, sage advice. And I think this is a topic that we'll continue to talk about. It's obviously top of mind for anybody that's listening to this podcast, is finding good skilled labor. So with that, John, we come to an end to another episode. We'd like to thank you guys for making us the #1 construction law podcast in the world. Stay tuned next week for another episode of Law and Mortar. If you want to reach out to me or ask questions, you can reach me at trent.cotney@arlaw.com. John, how can they get you?
That'd be J. Kenney at cotneyconsulting.com.
Great. Thank you. And we'll see you soon.
Take care now.